If you think that sex life after 50 can't be surprising and rewarding, it's time to change that view. In today's video, we are going to reveal practical and effective strategies to revitalize your intimacy, improve your health, and completely transform your love life in this wonderful phase. No matter your age, sexuality is a right and a source of joy and connection. Stay with us, because the information we're going to share can really change your perspective and your life. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your like if you are interested in continuing to learn about topics that matter to your health and well-being. Now let's dive into this fascinating subject. Many people believe that sex life after 50 is no longer relevant or pleasurable, but the reality is that this phase can be a valuable opportunity to rediscover one's own body, strengthen emotional bonds, and even enhance intimacy in ways that might not have been possible in earlier stages of life. When talking about sexual health in old age, it is important to start by addressing the natural transformations that the body undergoes. Hormonal changes in women, such as menopause, can cause vaginal dryness and reduced desire, while for men, the drop in testosterone levels can lead to decreased libido and erection difficulties. These changes do not need to be seen as definitive barriers, as there are many strategies that can mitigate or even reverse various discomforts. Talking to specialized professionals, such as gynecologists, urologists, and sex therapists, is a safe way to clarify doubts and identify personalized solutions. Many couples are hesitant to talk about the subject, as there is a social taboo that suggests that older people should not or could not have an active, intimate life. In practice, what we see is that men and women who overcome this prejudice find a source of pleasure and well-being that makes all the difference in their daily lives. It is essential, therefore, to recognize that keeping sexuality alive is not an exclusive privilege of youth, but a right at any stage of life. The search for quality information can start with reliable reading, conversations with health professionals, and even through support groups that discuss sex life in an open and healthy way. In many cases, people in their 60s, 70s, or even 80s find forms of satisfaction that they did not have before, precisely because they know themselves better, have more time for themselves, and are not afraid to explore new paths. It is common to think that sexual pleasure is restricted to the act itself, but mental and emotional preparation is fundamental. When it comes to long-term relationships, it is possible that the routine and challenges of everyday life have weakened communication about desires and expectations. Recovering this sincere exchange can be the turning point to rediscover intimacy. This dialogue does not have to be formal or full of technical terms. All it takes is a moment of tranquility in which the couple can express what they like, what bothers them, and what they would like to try, without judgment or embarrassment. Sometimes just rescuing the practice of a prolonged affection, a tight hug, or a longer kiss already makes the body respond differently. Regular medical appointments also play a central role. When a woman notices symptoms such as vaginal dryness, discomfort, or pain during sex, there are resources such as lubricants and vaginal moisturizers that can relieve the problem. In some cases, hormone replacement may be indicated, but always with proper professional guidance, considering the history of each patient. In the case of men, erectile dysfunction can be treated with specific medications, but there are also therapies that include exercise, psychological follow-up, or changes in lifestyle habits. The important thing is not to underestimate the body's signals and seek specialized help as soon as you notice any discomfort. Because the sooner you intervene, the easier it becomes to deal with the issue. Many people don't know that the practice of moderate physical activities, such as walking, swimming, or yoga, can directly improve the quality of sex life. Exercises that strengthen the pelvic floor are recommended for both men and women, as they help support the internal organs and can provide greater control and sensitivity in the intimate region. In addition, regular physical activity increases blood circulation, releases endorphins, and reduces stress levels, all of which contribute to more satisfying sexual performance. At the same time, a balanced diet that includes fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and good quality proteins helps to keep the body more willing. Avoiding excess ultra-processed foods, refined sugar, and saturated fats can have a significant impact on overall well-being, including greater energy and desire. In addition to the purely physiological aspects, there is also the emotional and psychological side. Many elderly people face fears or insecurities about their own body because they feel that it no longer responds as it used to, or because they no longer recognize themselves in front of the mirror. It is essential to understand that maturation brings unique characteristics of beauty and that pleasure can be experienced in new ways, more focused on affection and affectionate touch. In certain situations, it is recommended to seek a therapist who will guide you on how to deal with emotional blocks or past traumas. A trained professional can suggest relaxation techniques, breathing exercises, and practices to rediscover pleasure without haste or performance pressure. Another issue that usually arises is that of fluctuating libido. Men and women can have moments of intense desire and others of almost total disinterest. This does not have to be seen as something abnormal, but as part of the natural process that the body goes through. In these periods, investing in longer foreplay, dedicating time to caresses, kisses, and gentle touches can awaken dormant sensations. The couple can take the opportunity to explore new ways of relating, discover erogenous zones that may never have been properly stimulated, or even try products that intensify or vary sensations, always in moderation and care. Attention to the environment also makes a difference. Creating a cozy atmosphere in the bedroom with soft lighting, relaxing music, and a pleasant temperature can help the body loosen up more easily. Sometimes, a change of scenery, such as a trip for two, or even a simple renovation in the sleeping place, can revitalize intimate life. These details may seem secondary, but they make for a more engaging sensual experience, helping the mind to disconnect from everyday obligations and focus on the present moment. In relationships of many years, it is normal for there to be periods of wear and tear or conflicts that, even without being directly linked to sexuality, end up being reflected in bed. Therefore, taking the time to talk about pending issues, forgive old hurts, and draw up new life plans together can renew the couple's complicity. The feeling of union and mutual respect awakens the desire to get closer and to rediscover physical touch. In some cases, the help of a psychologist or couples therapist can facilitate this reconnection and create a safe environment to expose weaknesses without fear of criticism. One issue that comes up frequently is the use of medication, especially in people taking medication for high blood pressure, diabetes, or other chronic conditions. These medications can, in fact, influence the sexual response, but this does not mean that the person needs to resign themselves to the loss of pleasure. Adjusting doses together with the doctor in charge and looking for alternatives that cause fewer side effects is part of a personalized follow-up. When talking openly about the difficulties, the health professional has more tools to help find a solution that suits the profile of each patient. Some people feel more comfortable exchanging experiences with friends or groups that address sexuality in a natural way. Participating in lectures and events aimed at the public over 50 years old can show that many other people experience the same challenges and that there are several ways to overcome them. In these exchanges, tips on relaxation techniques, more comfortable positions, book recommendations, and even suggestions on courses that teach practices aimed at physical and emotional well-being may arise. This type of support helps to normalize the topic, reducing the stigma that getting older is synonymous with giving up pleasure. For those who are single or widowed, the idea of resuming their sex life may seem even more challenging, as it involves meeting new people and dealing with insecurities. In these cases, the way is to value personal discovery before any effective involvement. Conscious masturbation, for example, can be a way to explore one's own body, realize what provides comfort and pleasure, and thus gain more confidence. When a relationship arises, whether casual or lasting, This baggage of self-knowledge makes all the difference when it comes to communicating preferences and fears. It is also essential to remember that protection against sexually transmitted diseases remains important in any age group, and the use of condoms is the safest way to prevent infections. There are cultural aspects that influence the way sexuality is seen in old age. In some families, talking about this subject is even prohibited, which generates a feeling of shame or guilt in those who want to experience pleasure naturally. In these situations, it is worth reinforcing that taking care of one's sex life is part of comprehensive health care, as well as having regular exams, eating well, and exercising. It is not necessary to have the approval of everyone around you to seek personal satisfaction and happiness, as long as the choices are made in a responsible and respectful way. In terms of routine, taking time for yourself can be an effective way to combat feelings of tiredness or disinterest. If the person has grandchildren to take care of or obligations that take up a good part of the day, creating spaces for rest and self-care becomes even more necessary. A relaxing bath, a moment of reading or a massage can prepare the body and mind for a more pleasurable sexual encounter. Learning to deal with stress is also essential, as it is one of the great enemies of libido at any age. Another possibility is to explore creativity and intimacy without fear of breaking old routines. Many couples at this stage discover pleasure in sensual massages, baths together, or even the use of accessories that bring new sensations. The important thing is to respect each other's limits, always maintaining an open dialogue to understand what pleases or dislikes the partner. When there is harmony, everything flows more naturally, and the sexual act can become an experience of deep connection, reinforced by the affection and complicity accumulated over the years. For those who have some type of chronic pain or physical limitation, the guidance of a physical therapist specializing in gerontology can be very helpful. There is the possibility of discovering positions and adjustments that avoid overloading joints or sensitive regions, ensuring comfort during intimate contact. In addition, physiotherapists or physical educators can propose specific exercises that increase mobility and reduce pain, which expands the possibilities of sexual experience. Emotional support from friends and family also exerts an influence. When the person feels that there is openness to talk about their doubts or insecurities without being judged, they develop greater self-confidence and tend to face challenges in a lighter way. A welcoming environment where talking about aging and sexuality is not a reason for embarrassment contributes to each one taking control of their own well-being. If this support does not exist in the closest circle, looking for discussion groups or specialized online forums can be an effective way out. With advancing age, some people begin to find pleasure in forms of intimacy that do not necessarily involve penetration. Long kisses, hugs, skin-to-skin contact, and mutual masturbation can become sources of satisfaction and complicity. Touch, in many cases, is worth more than complicated techniques. Those who dedicate a few minutes a day to the simple act of caressing their partner, smelling their smell, and listening to their breathing often report a deepening of the love bond. This type of intimacy can even serve as the basis for a more satisfying sexual act when the couple decides to go ahead. It's not uncommon for one or both partners to feel afraid of not living up to expectations. Comparisons with the past can generate frustration, but it is good to emphasize that each phase of life has its particularities. What once happened in one way can now happen in another way entirely, and yet offer pleasure and fulfillment. Maturity brings a more sensitive dimension where touch and affection can be more important than the intensity or frequency of encounters. Accepting these changes and embracing one's own life story can be liberating. Some men fear that the drop in erection frequency means the end of desire, but this is not necessarily true. The desire can still be present even if the physical responses are not the same as when you were 20 years old. Instead of focusing solely on performance, focusing on creating an atmosphere of affection and fun can take the pressure off and make the experience lighter. When the relationship takes place without the pressure of reaching a standard of performance, the couple tends to relax and feel more pleasure. On the other hand, there are women who are concerned about the shape of their bodies, as they believe that the changes that occur with age can make them less attractive. At this point, it is worth remembering that the partner, most of the time, is more interested in the exchange of affection and complicity than in a perfect body. Acceptance and self-confidence are much more seductive than any aesthetic standard imposed by society. When a woman feels safe to express what she wants and feels comfortable in her own skin, it creates an atmosphere of intimacy that her partner also perceives and values. An element that greatly enriches one's sex life in maturity is the possibility of talking about fantasies. It is not about doing something that bothers the other or that goes against individual values, but about creating a space of freedom to expose imaginaries and desires. In many cases, just the act of sharing these ideas brings you closer, even if they are not put into practice. With mutual respect and frank dialogue, the couple may find that they like to vary environments, experiment with different textures, or even read erotic stories as a couple. These are small novelties that keep the flame of curiosity and desire alive. In closing, it is important to reinforce that sexual health in old age goes beyond the act itself. It relates to a set of factors that include emotional well-being, self-esteem, physical health, and social context. Seeing sexuality as an integral part of a healthy lifestyle allows each person to seek solutions and adaptations whenever they perceive an obstacle. Above all, recognizing that sexuality can remain vibrant and present at any stage of life is a fundamental step to live it fully. Talking about the subject, seeking reliable information, consulting professionals, and trying new forms of pleasure are ways to transform the routine and keep the connection with one's own body and with others alive. This journey, when conducted with affection, patience, and openness to dialogue, tends to bring benefits not only to the sexual sphere, but to the entire quality of life.